All right, so we're here with Sal Graven, who is father of one of our voice students, and he has lived an extremely interesting life. A lot of experiences that I thought were very relevant to your journey, not only as a music student and artist, but as a human being. So I'd like to have Sal share some of his insights with you, and I hope you'll find it as inspirational as I do. So, tell us a little bit about yourself. I mean, anything you feel comfortable sharing. You don't have to share everything. Save a little bit for later, right?
Sure. So I guess I'll just start with some of the basics, right? Went to school at SUNY Plattsburgh, got my undergraduate degree in political science. Have spent all of my career really working in politics and government.
And did you, when you chose your degree, have you always wanted to be in politics and government, or was that something that you fell in love with at school? How did that happen?
So funny you mentioned that. I, for the longest time, wanted to be a Secret Service agent. I wanted to have the earpiece, protect the president, travel all over the world. I really, that's what I wanted to do. My sister, who is 6 years older, has a friend from college who did just that. Joined the Secret Service during the Clinton administration. So befriending him, and he was sort of share stories about his travels, about his work. And it just really just like, wow, like that's what I wanted to do, you know? I was then sort of 9/11 happened and changed a little bit. Both changed the world and changed sort of my outlook. And I think that's where I pivoted more to the government side of things, the civilian side of things, not necessarily an agent of the government.
Well, somebody with certainly Secret Service agent is an important job, but something with a wider reach. The work that you did later impacted an awful lot of people. So tell me more about that.
Yeah. So later on, I sort of was charged with putting together a lot of just mass event planning. I would do what's called political advance. And, we go out ahead of an official and basically just put together the event and whatever the person was going to do. So
you were hired you got a job with New York State and what would be the official title of the presenting?
Sure. So I was hired I graduated in May of 2002, was hired thereafter. In 2002, it was called an advance coordinator. So I would, again, go out basically coordinating logistics, on-site logistics for the governor and the team, both security and staff side of things. And just basically, again, you're an event planner, an event organizer. So audio-visual logistics, backdrops, just incorporating all of that into the work.
Well, you say it, just kind of event planning. It's not exactly like doing a birthday party. I mean, security, all of the different intersections. I mean, mm-hmm. it was a big job with a lot of moving pieces. So how did you handle that? That had to be stressful.
Very stressful. Not just a lot of people, but it's also managing a lot of egos too. And the egos of not just principals, but even the egos of those whom those principals have sent to represent them. And then when you that's just sort of one piece. And then you go to New York City, for example, and then that just exponentially just hypens everything up, right? I think one thing that helped me, but I think, again, talking about sort of life too, is being confident and grounded in yourself and in your ability. Speaking confidently, speaking professionally, and understanding that not everyone is going to be polite and not everyone is going to be workable. So that, I mean, my answer, I think, does present some, again, new challenges to then have to tackle, but it's all rooted back in your own confidence in yourself, in your abilities, and when you speak, you know what you're talking about. So having a little bit of subject matter expertise, I think, certainly goes a long way. But I would always say just confidence in yourself.
Oh, 100%. I absolutely believe that you need to develop that. But you were with such, if you're talking about the governor, your intersection with the federal government and all of that, the big egos, how did you deal with what I would imagine when I'm thinking about that? I would be stressed, and I know you need to present confidently. How do you deal with that inner conflict? Am I good enough, or have you always had that as a grounding piece? Was it a development process, or was it something you were born with?
Yeah, I think it's developmental. I'm speaking to you, 45, going to be 46, and we're talking about a time when I was 22, 23. So a lot learned in 20 years, certainly, right? But when you're young and out of school, right? And I hear you. You're someplace and you're looking up at a lot of people and you know who they are and their power and what they sort of bring, and you're trying to someone on the outside, it looks like you're trying to move Mount Everest, but to me, it's like you just did that with grace, right? So how do you? Yeah, that's a good question. I don't think I ever really evaluated introspectively sort of those attributes. I think going back to confidence is one thing. I've always managed stress well. My wife can probably attest to that too, because when an event is a very chaotic thing, as the saying goes. There's the top two stressful jobs in the world as a fireman in the city of New York and an event planner, right? So you're dealing with a lot of people, a lot of parts, a lot of movements, and everyone is looking to you. So if you're presenting yourself as chaotic, unorganized, unprofessional, indecisive, you're not going to get respect. No one's going to respect you as a person, not going to respect you as a leader, and they're not going to do business with you ever again.
Yeah.
And in my world, I operated in a zero-sum game. So there is no such thing as failure. This has to be done. So I think that in the background is a motivator, not a stressor. To me, it wasn't, at least. It's a motivator. It's a motivator to be confident in yourself. It's a motivator to ensure you're well planned, that you have a good team around you, that you've delegated responsibilities where and when applicable, that you have an understanding of the plan. You're acting as the quarterback of this thing, right? And really, because you have all of these parts and you've rehearsed and you've run through, you've checked, you double checked, now it's just time to, hey, let's just go execute. And as you know, in the performing business, it's just queuing people, queuing actions, and then it just snowballs. The event just sort of just happens all on its own. And thankfully, I think more times it has ended up that way, but you have to be prepared. You have to be planned. I operate, my team at work, we have a saying. It's called expecting the unexpected. Now, 20 years ago, I didn't have that saying in my head, but I think looking back, I always operated with that sense in my head. Because, and what I mean is, just because the forecast says it isn't going to rain, does it still mean that, hey, wouldn't hurt to throw an umbrella in the car?
Yeah.
Or it's an indoor event, probably not going to be thirsty or something, but you know what? Let me just bring a bottle of water just in case. It's expecting the unexpected, preparing for it. If you don't need it, you didn't use it, that was the plan all along, to not have to need it, to not have to use it, to not have to call somebody. But if you needed to, it's there.
That makes me think about when you were coordinating a lot of the moving parts back at our show at the Palace. I got to see you doing that. You handled it with, just calmness and a sense of authority when we had 100 performers and then the backstage staff were threatening to walk off in the middle of the show and all of these pieces there, and you just handled it. Tell me if I'm wrong. When I go into a show and there's a lot going on, it can be stressful up to the time that you're there. The show starts and then you kind of enter a flow state. Things feel different. Stress is not there. And then afterwards, you may feel that same amount of stress, but it is, like you said, there is no choice. It's like we can't just turn out the lights and tell everybody to go home.
Right.
So if there is no choice,
right,
I think stress tends to go down.
It does. I mean, once Crystal took the stage at 11 a.m. or whatever it was, there's no going back, right? There's no going back. But to the point that you make, and I think reiterating what I said, is that you had a team around you who had your back, right? You couldn't have eyes and ears on everything, but you had a team with you who did and who could, right? And that's part of it too, is having that team confident in their ability, confident that they know the plan, that they can execute the plan. And then you just have to basically, right? You have to drop the reins and the event sort of just goes, like you said, just flows. It just flows. Little cues here and there. Yeah, we had some hiccups backstage. Certainly experience, helped, and that's the thing though. And that's, you have all these people, all these moving parts, and everyone always brings questions, not solutions, which is a big thing of mine. I don't like, but it's a show and then it's an event. So no one wants to be the person who's responsible for something going wrong, right? Now, it wasn't my show either, right? My daughter's participating and it was your show. You and Crystal are off and whatever. And again, it comes down to trusting your team. I knew deep down that I wasn't ever going to get flack from you or Crystal because you brought me on board, knowing who I was, knowing my job, this, that, and the other thing. So, I mean, I need to act with a little sense of, they need to just back me up here, and so there comes a little bit of that,
Yeah, respecting the people around you. You pick good people, and I like that because there are some leaders and if you're talking about musicians or creative artists that are threatened by good people. I want to get the very best I can around me because it just makes me look better. And there are always caveats, talent versus dedicated to doing a good job. I love people that are dedicated to doing a good job.
Right. And then plus for you, it allows you to turn attention to where your ability and your focus needs to be, right? Which is on your musical students, right? You can't be worried about if someone's eating lunch or not. That's for others to deal with. People like me, who deal with that. But surrounding yourself with I think good people is so important. And then again, we're talking about life too, right? And sort of music students, and it's same thing I tell my daughter too. It's you want to surround yourself with good people, So befriending fellow folks here at Peak who can uplift you, right? Let's hang out with people who we can sing with and rehearse with and practice with, maybe not so much people that take time away from this stuff.
Oh, exactly. There was I don't know if it's completely relevant to what we're talking about, but I had a instructor one time who I clicked with who said, you want to seek out groups of people to be with that are talented. If you can, get them more talented than you. And his word was if you can find a place where you're the worst guitarist or the worst singer in the room, that brings you up. If you are surrounded by novices, there's not a lot to learn. But if you raise it up, everybody rises with the level of where you're at in the room.
That's right. That's right, Jeff. I mean, in every walk of life, I think I became successful in my job because I immersed and I traveled with one of the best that we had, on staff in the governor's office. And I had the ability to shadow him a lot more than I shadowed other people. So my professional career mirrored a lot of his touches because that's who I was exposed to a lot, right? So, right to your point, if we're surrounding ourselves with people who can uplift us in talent and just emotions, right, and self-esteem, we are bound to be better at whatever it is that we're doing, just from that mirroring effect.
So right now, are you doing the same type of job, or have you transitioned out of that high stress governor position? I know the answer to that, but they don't know the answer to that.
So I do similar work now. I work at a state public authority. Our event work is a lot more robust in the sense that it's little things from tabling at events to large, hosting, 350 plus person conferences. A lot of my work now focuses on a lot of like the big impactful work, and I have a team that underneath me that just does a lot of the day-to-day little, we go out and sponsor different events, things like that. But I think, a lot of what I learned now is not really as much doing it myself. It's training and imparting this knowledge on my team who are very young, very young. So they need to learn, right? Sal cannot continue to do everything. I can't continue to be everywhere. Plus, it doesn't help the team if one person sort of holds on to everything. We have to impart that, right? So kind of like a music group,
Yeah. Well, let me ask you this. You're working with a team now. If you, at this point, were giving advice to yourself, just coming out of college, knowing where you were going, what advice would you give yourself?
Oh, good question. I think one thing that I notice, again, because my team is young and I have sort of a person or two who would fit in this category. And that is so 2 or 3 points here. First is to read. Please. People don't read their messages. People don't read notes. And when you don't do that, you ask questions that could have been answered. And you don't come prepared. The task is either not thoroughly completed or you don't show up prepared because you haven't read through everything that needs to be done. So please, as I say to my team, read.
It's interesting you say that. Crystal sends out emails for performances and about classes, and she's starting to break up the messages because there are some people that will read the first line or two and then immediately send back an email asking a question about something that was in the body of the email clearly answered. So that is, I think, someplace where we're going as a society. People are not read the subject line and then respond.
That's right, Jeff. And that goes into my second point, which leads to not reacting. So in your example, right, we have families reacting to something, which is an email, where there's no reason for it. They don't need to react. Reacting brings about, as we've talked about earlier, reacting brings on stress. Reaction brings on anxiety versus if you took the 30 seconds and read through it, not only are you not reacting, not only have you not had anxiety because you need to double check the date, time, and the location, but it's all gone. And you're now calm, cool, collected, confident, and just you go about your day. So we need to read things. We need to not react to things. And third, we need to ask clarifying questions. We don't all communicate the same way. We all don't communicate as effectively as we would like, or maybe as one thinks one does. So it's important to seek clarity so that you can execute to the highest level possible. Whatever that is. We all have different levels of execution. But seeking clarity helps now to refine the product to getting as close to perfect as one needs, or close to, assignment as possible. So those, I think, would be my three recommendations.
Yeah, and you can correct me if I'm wrong. You sound as passionate about the job that you have now as I am about teaching or performing. It sounds like this is something that you love doing. Is that correct?
It is. I enjoy doing it. I'm at a point in my career where I want to be involved and manage large, impactful things. The day-to-day nitty-gritty does not motivate me at all. What does motivate me is, again, as a supervisor and a manager at work, is getting up and teaching my subordinates so that they can hopefully one day, be like Sal, or project confidence like Sal does, because they've been properly trained and groomed in, trained in their craft, groomed in system processes internal, right? We all have contracting things, so that we have whatever, you know what I mean? But confident in their ability, that they've asked questions, they've read their materials, they're properly briefed up, and they know what to do, and having the confidence to ask if you don't. But again, you've read through it, you've synthesized everything, and then you come forth with your clarifying questions.
Yeah, thoughtful. And people nowadays are afraid to ask questions.
I don't know why.
I don't know if it's fear of looking like they don't know what they're talking about, but they're afraid to ask questions, and that causes a lot of problems. And I think a lot of times it's the questioners who ask a question for information that has already been stated, has already been delivered, puts, I think, a negative connotation on asking questions. That's why I said and would emphasize the use of clarifying questions, right? Asking a question that's rooted in information in the email is a waste of a question. A clarifying question, such as, here's the date, here's the time, here's the location. Should we wear peak t-shirts or an outfit on our own? That's a good question, right? Yeah. Wasn't in the email, wasn't stated during class. I really don't know. How do you want my kid show up? Right? Is it the Finding Christmas t-shirt? Is it the black shirt? Or do you want an outfit? Like, that's a good question. That right? is a good question.
That's a good question. What time or where? Well, we already told you that, right? That's wasting my time to now have to respond to this email. But I agree with you. Let's do ask questions, but let's read the right question. Right.
All right. So let me. I have heard some of the experiences that you've had. We'll call them that, because I don't think we've really touched on it. But Sal was heavily involved with heads of state traveling to different countries and doing a lot of things. Are there any interesting stories you'd feel comfortable sharing? You can change the names of the innocent, or if you want.
That's okay. That's cool. I will just, I guess, I've met some really interesting people, sort of in no order. The now King Charles III, he was the Prince of Wales. I met him in in New York City. I've met famous musicians and artists and politicians. I've been private jets and helicopters and stayed at mansions and governor's mansions and estates.
Maybe saved the marriage of a vice president by getting flowers to his wife.
Married, saved a marriage. I've been tear gassed.
Well, wait a second. I haven't heard that. Where were you at that you got tear gassed?
So we were in Hungary. The governor was, he was nominated, or I don't know if it's nominated, but he was delegated by President George W. Bush to lead the U.S. delegation to Hungary in commemoration of the 50th anniversary of their revolution against Soviet Russia.
Okay.
So we are in Hungary. I flew in a day ahead, which was cool because I got to walk around and see Budapest. I've never been to Hungary, nor to Budapest. Got whisked around for a day, was pretty cool. And then sort of the governor came in the next day with the delegation. And then the day after, immediately got to sort of official business. So as you can imagine, I think then and even today, the government of Hungary is very like right leaning. So there was some anti-protesters, some sort of left leaning, whatever. So after an evening in Pest, that I know, you got Buda side and the Pest side, which make up the city of Budapest. So after some dinner on the Pest side, we go back to Buda, which is where our hotel was. And there were some riots going on that the governor wanted to go see. And I don't know who goes to see protests or riots, but that was the wish. So the state police, New York State Police, and the Hungarian security basically got us as close that we could get.
So there were New York State Police.
Who travel with him. Yes, absolutely. Okay. Yeah. And so basically we got as close as we could get, and as close as we can get, I'm tasting tear gas. Like I could feel it in my throat, in my eyes, whatever. And they walked in front of him and said, "No far, we're getting out of here." So we turn around and we start walking away from the protests. But as we're walking away, what was likely happening, unbeknownst to us, was the Hungarian police were clearing these streets. So people now are running by us, and the tear gas smell is starting to get a little thicker. So we peel off into a Marriott hotel, and we're just sitting in the lounge in the lobby, get some drinks and whatever. But the Hungarian security detail who was with us are told the Marriott staff to lock this place down. So that's what they did. They locked the doors, the two entranceways. Let me go a little further because it's pretty cool. So again, Sal is 24, 25 at this point. And so I've been, I'm a little intoxicated. I've, tear gassed is coming, I have to tell
with
somebody.
The government.
Yeah, right.
In Hungary.
In Hungary. They were now in refuge in the lobby of a Marriott. But I'm I gotta tell somebody about this, whatever, So I pick up my phone and I call my best friend back here in New York, and I'm just telling him, you're not gonna believe what's going on. I'm there's a riot going on, there's a tear gas, and I'm there's a oh my God. The oh my God was these protesters are now trying to break into the Marriott.
Oh, really?
Security services catch up to them, and I see these two police officers with batons just start beating these two people who are trying to get into the Marriott hotel. I'm on the one side of the door, they're on the other side of the door, billy clubs and whatever, batons, and they're just clearing them out of there. And I was on the phone with my best friend during all of that and just basically describing what's going on.
That's crazy.
It was really crazy, really crazy, really crazy.
And I imagine the Hungarian authorities were worried with the governor being trapped in the hotel.
Oh, getting him. Oh, yeah, ensuring that they were clear. So we were there probably for about an hour and a half or so. And then we walked back to our hotel thereafter when all the streets were cleared out.
You're very cool about that. See, you're good under pressure.
That's what it's all about.
Wow.
I'm not a security guy. You just got to trust the professionals. You know, that's, again, getting back to what I said, you got to trust your team, right? Trust your team.
Well, that is impressive. I think I will stick to being on stage with security there and a friendly audience. I'll let you handle the hostile crowds.
That was a fun. That was the only really. I mean, the other time. I mean, we did go, to China once, and it was on the Great Wall of China, and again, like just this experiencing all these different places or whatever. And I call my mom, and I'm like, they're 12 hours ahead, so we're noon over there, midnight stateside, and Mom, I'm sorry to wake you up, but I just have to tell you, I'm standing at the Great Wall of China, and I got to tell somebody about it because it's just breathtaking, and so it's really cool.
Wow.
Yeah, pretty cool experiences. Yeah.
Well, let me ask you one more thing. So if you consider you've got all of the students of Peak Music here, and you would give them a piece of advice to carry them through life. And this is not just musical, but it's college, family.
Yeah.
What would you tell them based on all of these experiences that you've had?
One additional thing I would say perhaps is to prepare. And preparation is however you make it. And you can belabor it, or you can just go about it, whatever. But just preparing a little bit, know that it is noticeable. So when you're going for a job interview, for instance, some years ahead, take a few minutes, not just to like read through your resume or your cover letter, but have someone throw some questions your way so that you can prepare for your answers. Because believe me, you may think you know your information, but when you're sitting across from somebody, or sitting across from a panel of people, it can be a little intimidating. But when you've taken just 5 minutes, 10, 15 minutes the night before, you've run through your own information, you've had a little bit of time to prepare with a little bit of basic introductory questions, whatever, you will stand out far more than you think, and against others. Believe me. I never believed it. Never really had to prepare for interviews much in my career because I was appointed. But I did once. I did for one job. And little did I know that I was called in for a second interview, but it wasn't for the job that I was applying for. It was for a far larger job, a managerial sort of deputy commissioner sort of job, unbeknownst to me, because of my preparation going into the initial interview. Able to talk about yourself a lot more confidently. You don't stumble in your answers. You're not using fill words like or like. You are just crisp, you are professional, and you are prepared. And there's nothing more, I think there's nothing more appreciative as an interview committee, or nothing that stands someone out more, someone who they know or comes across as, wow, this person was prepared for today.
That I think that is an astoundingly good piece of advice. It makes me think of another person that I worked with at one time, and he was at an open audition for rhythm guitarist for touring with Rhapsody of Fire in Europe. He showed up, and he brought a resume, and the other guitarists were laughing. Oh, who do you think you are with your fancy resume? Put his resume down, and they said, really? Nobody's ever come prepared like this? You're hired.
Right on the spot.
Right on the spot.
Because he was prepared.
Prepared. Yeah.
There you go.
So
I love it.
That is, be prepared. Think ahead of time.
Think ahead of time. Exactly. What might be helpful to, make me stand out, I had a second interview for an internal job on Tuesday. I knew that the folks who I was going to meet had my resume and cover letter, but I brought 4 just in case with me. I brought 4 extras just in case. And I asked if they needed a copy beforehand too, because again, showing that you're prepared.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Well, Sal, I really appreciate, and I'm sure our viewing audience really appreciates you being here. You're an amazing guy, and you were talking about, mentoring people and having them one day be like Sal, and one day I'd like to be like Sal.
I would like to be Jeff one day, believe me.
All right.
Thanks for having me, and thank you everybody for watching.